People who don't seek the validation from other people can always find the joy in it.
As long as you're chasing the views, chasing the engagement, you're not actually having impact on people, which means that that's only going to last for a season. Whereas I can go, I don't care how long it takes, I'm going to take the 1,000 people that are supporting right now and try to have as much impact on their lives as possible. Welcome back to another episode of the Wealth of Creator Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Berry, and today got someone very special to me coming on this episode. I planned this episode just because I wanted to give the viewers and the people that do support an opportunity to see, I guess, me from a different side, somebody that can give you a different perspective. But she is a mom. She is one of the hardest working women that I know, and just very near and dear to my soul. She is the reason I am the man that I am today. I introduce to you all Ashley Berry. Hi, Ashley.
That was great.
You like that?
Yeah, I love that.
I mean, today it's going to be, kind of a conversation, just me and you, to give people kind of some insight on our relationship, some of our experiences. And hopefully, by the end of the episode, we have provided enough value that just offers other individuals, whether they're in the content creation space or not, just in the overall business and entrepreneurial space, give them some insight on how it is, dealing with, an individual that's all in on what they're doing, but also what it's like to have to hold down the fort at home and manage the kids. We do have two lovely boys of our own, Nathan and Noah, and, they're a task. So It's not like what I do is the hardest job in the house, right? So tell everybody, I guess, just start with, how how we met, how's that moment for you when you decided, okay, this is the guy that I want to spend my life with?
We laugh all the time, but I think me and your dad knew I was going to be your wife before you knew I was going to be your wife. Mm-hmm. And so I just knew right away, early on, how much I loved you. I had a love for you like I didn't have for anybody ever. And you started being my friend, and then you went from my best friend. And it's kind of been our foundation even now. We still remain best friends. I think it's the best part about our relationship that, you're still my favorite person to do anything with.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel the same way. And just so there's context to it, like we're in year 10 of marriage. We met when we were 11 and 12 years old. And so that foundation is strong, right? Like there's been a lot of different experiences that we've been, had the pleasure of doing together, right? And so I think for the most part, any advice that we would give to someone that's trying to find that love of their life, it is to find the friendship first, always, because it really sets a tone, right? There's things about me that only you would know. Yeah. And vice versa. And so I think like that's where it's most powerful. But I appreciate your words too. Like, it's funny. I told her, and I tell everybody this, that I don't, like, no matter what I've been able to accomplish, right? Whether it was, through sports or through what I'm doing now in the content creation space, I've never cared about the accolades or the kudos and the congratulations from people. Yeah. Right. Every time that I've had, an experience where it was like my first time doing it and I kind of got through it and it went well. Yeah. I've always come to you and my mom to go, how'd I do? Right. And now it's been more a view of, hey, how was that? Was it like, when I first launched this podcast, it was what you think, right? Like it was all those things because I care more about your opinion and how you feel about something than I do anyone else's. Yeah. And that just makes this whole thing easy. And so, when I hear people like, I'm proud of what you're doing, I'm not even thinking nothing of it. Yeah. Because I've heard it from you already. Right. And so it's just it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. It's a funny thing, right? Like Ashley is not the social media person at all. So for her to even be here today has been a goal achieved of mine. But tell the people what it's like, having to deal with someone who is all in on social media and content creation and how you manage to deal with the demand of the job.
So I think that when you came to me and was like, hey, I kind of want to do this thing and make this social media thing a career, which will kind of take me out of the home a little more. And so I need you in the home a little more. You kind of proposed it to me like, can I retire you? Right. And so I know that's everybody's, some women, that's their, those are dream words to some women. But I loved my career. I love what I was doing. Mm-hmm. And so I truly had to go back to God with that. And I feel like once God gave me the sign to take a back seat in my career for a moment and kind of just focus on my family, the children and you, put me in a place where I'm like, okay, God, I got to trust you with this. Mm-hmm. And so a couple years ago, right before things kind of really picked up for us, God gave me the word grace. And so I use that word every day. Use it multiple times a day. And so, but it gets me through. I know that God will give me the grace to give you. And so when you are watching somebody that you love pursue a passion of any kind, it's an honor to watch, and it's easy. You have truly made it easy for me to serve. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's easy for everybody, but you have made that easy for me. So I'm grateful for that.
Oh, that's great. And I think going back to that moment, that was about 2020 when I was like all in on really trying to pursue, my lane and my space in this game. And what I wanted for you, one, we had, had our second child, and I knew how hard it was, to kind of manage all of it, especially being in Vegas where we didn't have any family, right? It was like we didn't have the grandmothers and the grandfathers to just, pass the child off to, and we had to go accomplish something. So I knew it was difficult for you, and I knew it was going to be a really trying time as I'm trying to pursue something and this is happening. Yeah. But you always found a way to, one, make yourself very clear on where your capacity capped. Right? Like you wouldn't make it known if you're like, Justin, I'm right here with it. Right? Like, and I appreciated that because as a man, we're not always the most, we're not the brightest when it comes to that part because we're so goal driven that we tend to not even notice the tail signs of that occurring. Yeah. And so I remember us having conversations, and I would just be like, actually, don't ever assume that I understand. All right. Like you're going to let yourself down every time that you assume that I can recognize when you're either going through something mentally or emotionally in that way. And it's not that I miss everything, but a lot of times you don't see it before it actually blows up in your face. Yeah. So, that part, you got really good at, and I know that took like time and it took some development to really do that because that's not you. Yeah. Right. Like, and, I know there's people that's going to listen and hear this that go, I have the wife or the girlfriend or whatever it is that when we get into it, we just separate rooms and we quiet and we don't talk for a little while. Right. And I know as a man, that's tough because it's like you could decide not to talk to me and I'm over here not having a clue about why you're even mad. Yeah. Right. And so then I get mad at you for being mad at me. Right. Like that's just how it went. Yeah. And then we just worked at that. Right. We worked at communication, which is a big part of every relationship. Yeah. And understanding, how to get better at that. I also know that as I started the journey that early on, it takes a lot to really kind of get into it, right? You have to spend a lot of time studying creators. You have to spend a lot of time studying different strategies, watching a lot of video, watching a lot of content. And so I know that there were times when my face either was in my phone or my tablet, when you were needing, my full attention. How did you find yourself getting through those moments and really, finding a way to kind of, be okay with it?
I think one thing that you are really good at is listening. Mm-hmm. With anybody, you are a very good listener. So I think sometimes when I'm like, hey, babe, need you for a second, if I say that, then you are automatically, everything shuts down. Mm-hmm. So you have made that easy for me. in moments. Now, granted, I've had moments where I can get frustrated because I'm like, I shouldn't have to tell you this. Everybody kind of goes through that moment. But then that goes back to that grace factor of being like, hey, he may not actually even know that he's not here, that he's missing something with the kids, that he's missing a moment. So just give him the grace and kind of remind him. And I think your response is what allows me to give the grace. So, you've made that easy for me.
Can you share a time that you can like remember specifically where we were met with that type of challenge and came out on the other side stronger?
This season right now, right? Okay. This season is a season of transition for us. God is kind of transitioning, moving some things around in our life, expectedly and unexpectedly. And so in those moments, because I am a planner, those don't really go well for me. So I think in those moments you immediately picked up on this was going to be hard for her. But not only was it going to be hard for her, but I am immediately going to let her know she's not alone in it. You immediately grabbed my hand and was like, let's pray about it. Let's give it back to God. You're not carrying it alone. And so I think it was funny. I was just thinking earlier today, like, wow, like year 10, we got it. Like, that's what this feels like. Like year 10, like, wow, we got it. Like we got each other. And that can speak a lot of value. Like it may take 10 years for a couple to get it, but it was like, wow, like we got it. God has been so gracious to us, you know, and he's been patient with us. But I was like, in these moments, we have been like, nope, let's go back to him. Let's go back to him.
Yeah, that's definitely always been the foundation. I think we're in that, when you speak of transition, like we're in that period of where we're maturing in it, right? Whereas, and it's at every level, right? Like it's professionally, it's relationship. Like, our basis of our relationship is going back to what God really meant for it to be in the first place. And so it's like I'm finding myself in prayer more, meditating with God, like having that time, but then doing it with you. Whereas before, I don't think we did it together as much as we needed to. And so it has been, it has really strengthened this season. That is a tougher season. But yeah, those times for me, in those moments, my goal is always to just, find how I can make a difference in the house. Right. Like, okay, here's what's happening. All right. And some stuff is out of my control, but what can I control that will contribute to the situation positively. Right. And so I try to take as much pressure off. I try to do, and that's always my goal, because I know that what it feels like in our happy times is where I want to be. Right. What it feels like when we're stress free and everything seems to be going perfectly is where I want to kind of stay. And I know that that's life, right? It's an up and down thing. But yes, 10 years, like, and it's like, I feel like, okay, now I got to be an adult, right? Like, it's not that it took 10 years to feel that way, but it's like I'm seeing now, I can remember things that I heard my mom saying, my dad saying, other, couples that have been married for a certain amount of time. I remember those things that they were saying where when I was, 19, I blew it off. When, or even when we first got married, I was blowing that stuff off like, yeah, we're good, right? And now I every time something plays out, I'm like, I remember they told me that this is how this kind of works, this kind of happens. So it's really awesome to go through it with you, right? Like, and to learn all the things that we're getting with you. So it's great. Tell me a little bit though about your thoughts just on the content creation space in general, because I know I have one outlook on things, and I also understand the real from the fake things and all those kind of playing parts to media. But what is your take on it? As I've gone to enter into the space,
I think we have a lot of us have watched this thing like turn into something that has changed people's life. Like, so it has been amazing to see that people can literally document their life, post something they're doing, and then be paid, not only paid, for it, but they're able to live a life that isn't so stressful because it's not the 9 to 5 that we grew up watching our parents do, right? I think what I have learned from you in this process is that people who don't seek the validation from other people can always find the joy in it. Mm-hmm. And I think I watch you kind of, even us as a couple, like our validation comes from God.
Yeah.
Our blessings come from God. They don't come from people. They come from him. So when we kind of see other people lose sight of that, I think that's when it kind of can take a turn, but I have watched you be able to walk in it because it's like you just want to help people. You want to share your testimony. You want to encourage people. It's not, I want to get these many views. I want people to see me. So I think when you look at it from that aspect of it, it's been a blessing to see because, like I said, the validation doesn't come from the other side of the camera.
Right.
Who's on the other side of the camera, rather.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's you have power when you view it that way.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas I don't step in front of the camera, especially because it wasn't ever my vision to do. Right. Yeah. Some people have that vision where it's I want to be the talent. I want to be the influencer and that kind of space. I was never like that. I'm still not like that. Yeah. Right. Anybody that I can influence, I really want to have impact on. I don't just want to be the influencer that's entertaining.
Absolutely.
Right. I don't have any desire to be that guy. And so for me, I determine how I present and how well and the type of content that I want to put out based on the type of impact it could potentially have.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't see myself ever being that individual on the other side, which allows me not to necessarily care about what their thoughts of me are.
Yeah.
It's super selfless on why I do it. Because I don't you can have whatever opinion about me that you want, but how can I help you? How can I serve you? How can I what I mean? And that's how I see it. But that's also something that I learned from the people before me. Mm-hmm. I got to see the good and the bad because I get to see so many different creators all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And I've had all these pleasures of being around these different guys and hearing what their motivation is behind what it is they do and why they do it on camera. And so the cool part is that I get to go, I would never do that, or that's kind of tight. I can see why. Right. And that's just where
I think that's social media.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you do it that way.
Yeah. As you should. As you should. And I hope everybody that's listening and watching understands that too, because as long as you're chasing the views, chasing the engagement, and you're really trying to kind of do the gotcha content or the entertaining content, you're not actually having impact on people, which means that's only going to last for a season.
Yeah.
All right. And then when that season is over, you have a really hard time dealing with the fact that my views are down, my subscribers aren't growing, right? All those pieces. Whereas I can go, I don't care how long it takes to grow. I'm going to take the 1,000 people that are supporting right now and try to have as much impact on their lives as possible.
That's it. Yeah.
And I know, we have a friend who, is going through that experience mentally right now where she's trying to figure out, why isn't my stuff going viral?
Yeah.
And why is, how come the content that I'm creating isn't spreading and getting me all these different opportunities?
Yeah.
And then you go on the page and you see, 2,100 views or 1,500 views.
Yeah.
And whereas that's small in comparison to the person that gets 1 million views every video, those 1,500 people are trying to actively get involved and support the business. And so I'm always you put my 400 views in a room, it's not going to feel small to you.
Yeah.
All right. You put those people into one room and you get up in front of them, it's not going to feel small. And so I say, talk to the 50 people that's watching your short like it's 5,000, because it doesn't change from number to number.
Yeah.
All right. Just a little story, obviously this is Wealthy Creator and a partner with Ryan Pineda on what we've been doing on this content space for now 3+ years. And I remember the first time I asked him for an opportunity to speak in front of people. Mm-hmm. And he was throwing what at the time was the Future Flipper Mastermind. And it was at the Sahara Hotel here in Las Vegas. And I just asked, can I do a breakout room?
Okay.
I knew I wasn't ready for main stage, even though it was only 300 people.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready for that yet because I hadn't yet gained the authority to be able to speak on what it is that we were doing. Even though I was a big part of how he grew in certain ways, I wasn't necessarily the authority of the space. So it was like main room, main front. I'm not, who wants to hear from me just yet? And on that note, when you all are trying to figure out what to create and why you should create and why your videos aren't working or, something of that sort, ask yourself, like, why should they listen to you? Why should they believe what I say, right? And try to figure out how you can gain that authority so that people will listen to you and say, it's all about what you have done. Yeah. Right? Nobody listens to the pastor who's never spoken before. Nobody listens to the life coach whose life is in shambles, right? Like, you got to figure out how to accomplish something and then use that as a tool to be able to speak on and grow authority. But back to the point, I did that breakout room because I wanted to get into how can I help people and teach people in this way, right? And that room had, it was bad for me too. I felt stupid because they did a break right before it was my turn to speak. Yeah, which means like half the room left. Yeah, and I was like, man, how y'all gonna do that? I mean, like, it's my first time, and you do the break right before I'm getting ready to go up. But then something happened to me right before I got ready to go up there where I was like, I don't care if it's 6 people sitting in here. I'm about to get them as much game as I can give them on what I know. Yeah. Right. And I'm a firm believer only talking about what you know. Yeah. So it makes it easy for me to speak on it. Yeah. So I it was, people slowly pour back in, of course, all right, God's favor on that. But it was a moment for me to really get up there and do it. But even today, right, like when we get ready to do WealthCon, which is now over 1,000 people, this next one is happening April 18th. We're expecting 2,000 people to be in front of, be in the building.
Oh, that's amazing.
Here at Caesar's Palace main stage, I'm doing another, 35-minute set. But my goals are still the same, right? I treat that 2,000 people the same way I treated those 6 or 7 people that may have stayed and focused with me. So it's like, it doesn't matter, right? Like, now is the time to really focus on that content creation. You're not necessarily a content creator, but I've seen you put out a video here and there, and I watched the impact that your most recent video had on people. I even heard it from people who saw it, right? How do you feel now that you've done that and put out, something, kind of got vulnerable on camera and told a story? How does that feel for you now? Do you see yourself doing more of that, or is it just as the opportunity comes?
I do not see myself doing more than that.
Okay.
I am a firm believer that 2 people should not be running a social media in the same household. Goodness. When you have small children. Now, some people can wing it and it looks great, but I would say it's difficult because I feel like one truly has to pour 100% into the house at all times. And so that's my role right now. But in that moment, I think that video in particular that you're talking about, it was just being obedient to God. That's what that was. I had a moment with God that he made really clear with me, and he gave me a message to just tell somebody. And so he put it on my heart. I kind of ignored it, and then he kind of tugged at me a little more about it. And so then I shared it. But kind of even going back to you talking about, speaking in those small rooms, I think that we have both come to a place where we live a life of we look for who we can bless. That's it. I mean, if we aren't a blessing to somebody, then we're not doing something right. Me and you, how can we pray for you? How can I help you? How can I take something off your plate? I think that's just where God has blessed us so much that the least we can do is be a blessing to somebody else. And so God has given you platforms to be able to encourage somebody, to be able to teach something that he has given you the ability to teach. And so in those moments, if God gives me a moment where he's like, I want you to share something, then I'm going to be obedient to that if it's going to be a blessing to somebody else. I think people who don't really know you really, really well, this is not the life that I would have ever thought that you would have, or that this is not the role that I saw you being at all. And so this is a true testament of when God puts a calling on you, or when God gives you a plan and a purpose, nothing can get in the way of that. And I think that you're walking in that. So I think if God tells me to, I will. But he hasn't told me that, and so I'm going to ride that as long as I can.
Y'all comment below if y'all want to see more videos from Ashley. We got to get her to do it. I think personally, like, you have so much value to give, so much experience, right, to share. And I just believe that the way that one video touched the few, you can touch many as well. But I also don't believe in forcing it, right? Like, I don't believe in creating a character of yourself to appear on social media one way. Yeah. If that's not really how you're living. With you, it's different. Like, you're actually living like these things. And so, like, your story times are real and are really relatable to people. And so I think you can have great impact if you did it. No pressure. All right. You spoke about how you never saw this for us, right? Like, you never saw these type of things. And I agree with you 1,000%. This was not the plan. This was not something that we wanted. But God is good, and God really will give you the platform you deserve. And I hope that encourages individuals that are trying to figure out why they aren't getting the platform that they're trying to work for. Here's a question for you, though. What's one thing that this audience would be surprised to know about Justin? That
I think that what they see on camera is what you are off camera. Mm-hmm. I think that if was none of these lights or cameras on us right now, this would still be our conversation. Yeah. This would be our dialogue. I think that we've seen it too, that like the person that somebody is on camera, they aren't like that off. Mm-hmm. But I think that you come off to be really caring, loving, supporting to people. You are, the first person to congratulate somebody, the first person that wants somebody to win. And you've always been that way. Mm-hmm. I tell you all the time, you've been solid from day one. That's the only way I can describe it, is that you've been a solid guy from day one to your friends, to your family, to me, to your children. It's not like we don't have the testimony of, wow, I saw my husband change, or, oh, I saw, like, we don't have that testimony.
Yeah, I'm born.
Yeah. So I think that what I get now is just an expansion of who you've been my whole life. Yeah. And it just gets better. And it gets easier and easier to love you. I will say you're easy to love. Yeah. Yeah.
No, because that's encouraging too. Like, you want to be consistent with who you are. And it's like, I always hope that people can expect certain things from me, right? Like, I want my expectation to be solid. Like, and that's why I always feel like I don't have to defend myself on any kind of way. Like, I know what comes with getting in front of the camera and talking, right? And I know what comes with it because I've seen other creators go through it, and I've seen it really bother other creators. And then I've seen other creators just not care. Yeah. And so it's like, I care. I'm not going to pretend like I don't care at all. But I also know my character is always going to speak for itself. Yeah. So you could never talk to someone that knows me and get anything negative from it. And that's just how I kind of live my life. Right. And you do the same thing. Like, you're the same way. Like, I always, it's funny too, because even though I'm the one that ended up in social media, I was the less social one of us too, right? Like, you are more of the people person, the bigger personality. The talkative, like what y'all getting right now is not like, she's controlling herself, like what she's going to say. But like, but that was you, right? Like, you can go into a room, presence felt immediately, and, voice heard, right? Like me, I was more of the observer. Like, I was the more introverted kind of, off to myself and kind of observing everybody else in the room. So that's why it's funny that like I end up doing this and you ended up.
The roles kind of switched.
Yeah. But the best part about it though is like, where I may have, some influence on social media, you have influence in real life, like your relationships, are meaningful relationships. Tell me about a time though where my job has brought an opportunity for us that you really enjoyed or have loved what has come out of it.
We are in the season of meeting amazing people. Yeah. Like I can't even begin to describe
Absolutely.
the people that God has blessed us with. Like, I mean, we have some of the best friendships that we've ever had and have ever experienced in our life. And it has been a gift. Like the people that we have met, the people we now are family to us.
Yeah.
You know, they are aunties and uncles to our children. You know, they are second grandparents. They have just played such a huge role in our lives and now in our children's life. And I don't think that if you weren't doing this job, we would have been able to experience that. I think we found our people.
Yeah.
You know, like we have found our people, and that's been a blessing. And I don't take it for granted at all.
Absolutely.
At all.
Absolutely. And I know I probably shouldn't do this, but I just want to talk about some of those people. Right. Because I think it's important, you know, to actually say names too. Yeah. Right. Like, and I know, you know, if somebody's watching this and I don't say your name, please forgive me. Like, this is not intentional. I'm not trying to leave anybody out. Yeah. But there are specific individuals that, because of the job specifically, came into our lives, did something for us as, you know, a couple, but also in life myself, that has had impact on well beyond just me and you. Right. And I'll start with, you know, the Omar, right? The GOAT of this social media space, right? Like that dude gave me an opportunity, one, to learn, but two, he, you know, a question like, hey, how much do you want to make? Right. And then a simple text message of, hey, reach out to this guy. He's looking for someone. And it literally felt like he said he's looking for you. Yeah. Right. Like in that moment, it takes someone's heart to do that for another person. Yes. Right. And what that did for me in that moment was Vegas was not a mistake. Right. This move that we did away from everybody that we know, every network that we had, this wasn't a mistake. Right. There are people here that want to see you win, that are willing to help you get to where you're trying to go. Right. So shout out to Omar for that. That dude knows he's always going to have love for me no matter what. Right. But then even moving on, I find relationship with Ryan Pineda. Yes. Right. And what started off as just an opportunity to work has turned into a real relationship where this dude is like, he's a brother of mine. Right. And we have grown together the last 4 years. Right. Like, whereas it's not always about work. Absolutely. Where the relationship has, and the conversations and the lifestyle has gone beyond that, where it has led into faith. It has led into, you know, marriage. It has led into all these different elements that are just about doing life. Right. And I know people see him and, you know, they see the success that he's garnered and the attention that he's garnered from the success. Yeah. And they don't necessarily know him personally, but it's been a pleasure to get to know him personally. Yeah. And all the opportunities that he's provided me. So he's another like relationship that has stemmed from something and gone into something of another level. And I think, and you can speak to this, it has now, you know, I hear you and Mindy talking more than me and Ryan sometimes now. And Mindy's Ryan's wife, for those that don't know. Yeah. But talk a little bit about even that relationship and what that has developed into.
I think Mindy's my girl. That's my girl. I love her so much. But our relationship is different. I will say all of our relationships right now are Christ-centered. And I tell anybody, those are the best relationships you could ever have with a person. Yeah. It's not a what can you give me? It's not what can I get out of you? It is just, hey, I need your prayer today. Or it's, hey, I pray for you today. God told me to, you know, something's wrong, something's off. How can I be there for you spiritually? And those type of relationships go way deeper than anything. Yeah. Way deeper than you could even ever imagine. And so on days where me and Mindy got to give some grace.
Y'all need each other, huh?
To you and Ryan, he has given us each other. Where we're like, hey, okay, they on another trip, 2 more days. We got this, you know, you got this. How can I, you know, do you need help with the kids today? Let's tag team. Let's bring the kids to one house and do this thing together. But that's a blessing. Yeah. That's a blessing. I think when we moved here, all we had was each other. You know, we left everything that we knew,
Yeah, everything.
And we did not have, I'm not going to say we didn't have everybody's support, because I feel like our family supported, but I think we didn't have everybody's understanding.
Right.
So they didn't understand why we had to go, why we left, why we took the first grandbaby away, why we did the move. A lot of people didn't understand that. And so I think that time was hard because it then put us in a situation to kind of be like, are we making the right move? Why did we do this? Why did we? But I think when God told us to move, I know what he told us, and so when he said go, we said, okay. Yeah. And that has been literally the driving force in our life since we've been here. If God tells us to move, if God tells us to end something, if God tells us to separate from something or someone, we are quick to be obedient to that.
No, absolutely.
So that was, a blessing.
And the relationships have carried us like through this journey the last 6 years. And I mean, I can't fail to mention Mary, right? Like I can't fail to mention her, because even that relationship was built through an opportunity that I had in the content space. Yes. Right. Whereas you all developed your own relationship. And to be clear, Mary is Ashley's best friend, but that is my sister, right? Like it has gone beyond just being friends. Like, again, you have people who will pray for you and go to war for you, right? Like, and it's reciprocated on both sides. Yes. And so, but even that relationship was, like we met her through a situation that was all about me doing content and working with another creator. And so those friendships, whether they are long-term or not, things happen within them that really build life-changing opportunities and friendships. Yeah. And so like all of these things though play a huge part. And that's why you can, like that saying of show me your friends, I show you your future is a real thing, right? Like, and it's no knock to the previous friends that I had or guys that I hung around or, previous situation. That's just where life was at. Yeah. But when you intentionally surround yourself around people who are either on the same path, but may be ahead of you, or people that are going to help you along your journey, you'll see change. Yeah. You'll see change. And that's in every situation, right? Every situation. I love it too, because it gives you something on this social media space to talk about. Right. Yeah. And I love it because it's like I could get up here and I can talk about the same thing over and over again and hope that somebody supports. Mm-hmm. Or I can talk about exactly what I'm going through right now, what I'm experiencing, the people that I'm around, the situations that are happening with us, and see real results on the other side, because everybody can relate to it. Everybody is having this experience. Everybody has had that experience or will go through it. Right. And so that's the power in what we're doing and what we're building. And I'm grateful for it. So grateful. I'm truly grateful.
It's been the best part.
Yeah.
It's been the best part. I think this lifestyle can come with a lot of things, but the people he has blessed us with, man, top notch. Yeah. Top notch.
No, absolutely. How important is it to have a routine?
Ooh. I am a routine person. So to me, it is very routine that my days look the same. I think for people with kids, anybody knows that like a routine is the best thing that you can give your children. Consistency is the best thing that you could give your children. Mm-hmm. So I think it's certain things in our routine that I pray that my children can carry on into theirs. I mean, they see us pray together. They pray with us. Dinners at the same time. They know you're going to walk in the door at the certain time. They know that I'm going to be up. Things are going to be ready at a certain time. So it kind of just helps manage everything. But it also kind of, it keeps me focused throughout the day. Mm-hmm. And so when you do come in and you respect that time that you are home to make sure that you eat with us, and that, that don't always look like that, but 95% of the time you keep that, and so those routines are important when, we know who's doing bath time. We know who's walking the kids to bed, and, like the kids look for that. Right. So I think if anybody can get up and get a schedule down, and I think it's also easier to see God in those moments. Mm-hmm. I think we when everybody's like, I'm so busy, I haven't had a chance to pray, I haven't had a chance to read my Bible. If you get a routine, you'll find time for God.
For sure.
You'll find time for God. And he will make sure that you find time for him. So now in my day, if I don't get up and I don't have that devotion with him, my whole day, I'm like, something's off, something's wrong, something don't feel right. And then I'm like, no, because I didn't start my day with him.
Yeah.
So I think we both start our day with him together, and then we both start our day with him individually. But it helps the day go smoother because it's a part of the routine.
Yeah, here's what routine does for just life. Routine opens up time that you will never get back.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's good.
I can speak on when we didn't have a routine where it was just kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
I was 30 pounds heavier.
Yeah.
Right. I was tired all the time. Right. And when I looked at my day compared to those individuals around me that did have a routine, I didn't get half as much done.
Yeah.
And I remember telling you, like, when I first became the actual producer and director of media here, getting, obviously in that role, I have to be able to see Ryan's schedule. Mm. And I remember seeing all these highlights. It was by the hour, all these different highlights. And then so his were in orange and mine were in blue. And I'd have two things. And I was like, wait, there's no way that he can get all of this done, still be energetic at 5 o'clock, go home and have the energy, right? Whereas, by 3 o'clock, I'm tired. And then I'm going home and I'm kind of frustrated. I got to even start the second job of being a parent, right? Because it's just a lifestyle. It changes everything and it gives you time, right? Because it was time that you didn't even know you had.
Yeah.
Right. So, developing that routine is important. How you start your day and versus how you can continue your day. The start matters most. Right. Because you want to have that time to kind of with yourself and process, talk to God. Right. Maybe get a workout in there for those that do. Right. Hopefully you are doing that. Right. And then you can kind of plan the rest of your day accordingly because you already feel good going into it.
Yeah.
So routine's a big thing, but it also goes as far as, church on Sunday being a non-negotiable.
Yes.
Right. We're going. Right. No matter what we do Saturday night. Right. You got to get up. All right. Because if it was money, I was going. All right. And how would we feel if God told us he was tired and he couldn't do what we needed for right? It's that kind of thing. So you got to get up. It's not negotiable. But not only is that for us, but it also shows our children. Right. Luckily, we had parents that were the same way, right? They were it was. I made this joke on the episode of Kendrick Bourne, who's a New England Patriot. We were just talking about the black home, right? And I was like, it was never a question on whether or not we were going.
Absolutely not.
Right. Yeah. It was who we riding with today, right? That's just how it was.
And so it was more than Sunday.
Oh yeah. We don't got to get into that, but we were there 4 or 5 days out the week sometime. But that is setting a standard and a, not just a tradition, but a routine in your life, right? So yes, I can show up to places even no matter how I feel about it, no matter whether or not I want to, right? I show up prepared and ready to go. And so that's what that routine does. And I found that as we implement new things in our routine, like being sure to pray specifically for something together in the morning and at night. Right. Yeah. Like setting a time, to the side where once those kids go down, all right, we usually up for an hour and a half afterwards. Let's spend the first hour worshiping together. But having these things, right? You told me this morning, I was thinking to myself what I was going to eat for, for breakfast. You was like, we fast on the first. And I was like, right. But that's something that we're developing as a routine to do together, to go corporately together. So whatever it takes, individuals listening and watching, you should take that moment to really come up with what your day looks like. And I promise you'll find yourself getting so much more done. I know there's no way that you can clean, cook, pick up the kids, drop the kids off and do all these different things if you don't set the time up the way it should be done.
And if you do it, it's not pleasant. And that's what I realized. If I didn't take that moment to have for myself for a second or with God for a second, then the whole day, mommy's grumpy, mommy's mean, mommy's angry. And I don't want to walk in that. So just taking that time, getting up a little, earlier before everybody else and praying and just spending time with myself and with God has just changed tremendously my mental health for sure.
Yeah. What part of your routine are you cherishing most right now?
Oh, it's reading the Bible. As you know, that's my thing right now. I'm in it. Anytime I get a split second, I'm grabbing that Bible to read. And it's now I just have this desire to just want to know him. I want to know him, truly know him and his story for myself.
Yeah.
I want to be able to walk in that. I want to walk more like him every day. And so I'm just like the last, I would say 6 months, it's been a change in me. Something just clicked where I was like, no, I'm going to get closer to him, and I have really been trying to do that.
Yeah. And I can tell you from being on the other side, it's noticeable, right? Like when you involve God in your day to day, you're a changed person.
Yeah.
And it's really noticeable, like on our day to day, right? Like you even made me study more because you be asking some questions. Sometimes I'm like, I don't really know that answer, right? Like it's much like I said, we grew up in the church, so like. Yeah. The stories of the Bible, I usually know. And every so often you throw one out there and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I haven't read that or I just haven't read it and retained it. But I was like, I got to get back into it myself. But that's what that does, right? Like it spreads, right? Like, and it continues to spread. Yeah. No, that's awesome. I want to get more, and I want to give more advice to the couples out there that aren't yet married or the single individual that's looking for that partner of life. What advice would you give an individual right now in 2024, that's dealing with all the pressures of society, social media, all these things that, to me, it's way harder to deal with now than it is ever. Yeah. But what advice do you have for that? Let's just start with the young women. What advice do you have for a woman that's dealing with it right now?
When we first started dating, I did go through college. We kind of did our own thing, right? And so I just had time to know what I wanted for myself. It's sometimes I think we can know what we want out of a person, but won't even know what we want for ourselves. So in that time that I had, I just got to get to know myself. I got to not only get to know myself, but I got to know God for myself. Growing up in church, you kind of know God through your parents' eyes. Yeah. And it's just kind of like one of those forced relationships. But when you get to know him for yourself, it's a different experience. Right. So then I knew what I wanted in a partner. Yeah. Because now I know, I know what I want. I know who I want to become. I think our best days together was when we had nothing. When we had nothing. When we would use our last $30 to get Chinese food and literally just sit out the window and just watch people watch.
That was a good time.
It was the best time. It was the best time. It was before kids. It was before we literally had nothing. Right. We didn't even have gas money to drive back home. So we would stay in our apartment, just enjoying each other's company, playing games, watching DVDs at the time.
Ages.
Yeah.
What's a DVD?
Yeah. But watching something on TV. So it gave us an appreciation to where we are now so that when we can take the trip whenever we decide to go somewhere, we're like, wow. And then we notice God in it. Yeah. I tell people all the time, I don't know how people can do anything without God, but I definitely don't know how people can do a marriage or relationship without him. God is love. So the only way that I can love you as deep as I can is because how God loves me and how I love him. Yeah. And so it's easy for me to love other people because of that. So I think that when you are looking for a relationship or you're looking to, for a strong marriage, truly our foundation is God. Truly our foundation is, I know we mad at each other, but let's just grab hands and pray. And then let's invite him into this because this is bigger than me and it's bigger than you. So let's just invite him in so that maybe he can soften both of our hearts so that we can actually have a decent conversation.
Yeah. And I think too, like if you're like single female that is feels ready to start this relationship, right? I have found that there is a change in how people's approaches go, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas, you know how it was, like when I was young, the guy was always the person that was the aggressor to go, make his attempt at whoever he wanted to date.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's how that worked, right? Like it was never the opposite, right? You had a few of them, but like it wasn't, it was never like that. Like for the women that respected themselves, you had to put in a little work to get their attention and get them to come, even just on a date. Whereas now I'm noticing the men aren't doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
It's a hard time for the ladies right now.
Yeah. Like, watching guys stare at a woman but never go say anything. Yeah. I can understand how that could be weird to the woman, especially for the woman that is standing there like, I'm waiting for him to come say something to me.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And I get it. I think if I was to give any advice to that woman, this might sound crazy, but sometimes if you really are in that headspace of I'm ready for something to happen relationship wise, you may need to be a little bit more aggressive. Right. And I know there's going to be a lot of women that disagree with it. Yeah. But if you're waiting on these 2024 men to do it, you're going to be waiting a long time. Yeah. So I think it's not an approach like I'm putting myself out there like I'm ready for you to come take me. No, it's more of an approach of, hi, my name is.
Oh, yeah.
To just break that ice of awkwardness because I know you see me staring at you. Right. Now, for the fellas, knock it off. Right. Like, be confident in who you are as a man and just as a person. Yeah. And go approach that woman that you've been watching for the last 3 weeks, walk past you at church. Yeah. Right. Go approach her. Yeah. And it's as simple as, what's your name? You know what I mean? So that's kind of where like that's the only advice I would give, especially for the singles. When it comes to those that are in a relationship but are looking to go to that next level, I would suggest praying together about it. Yeah. Right. Because I do believe that there's a couple things I believe. One, relationships are about who can be humble enough to apologize first. Right. That's how they continue on and have real impact. And then I say the other key point to being in a relationship is being sure that you are okay long term with whatever flaws you can find with the individual who's your counterpart. Yeah. Because I don't think there's a perfect person. Yeah. There was no other perfect person than Jesus walking this earth. And so there's always going to be something that you find irritating, wrong, or frustrated with, right? Mm-hmm. But are you willing to grow with that person to deal with that or not? And that's what you have to determine, right?
And I think you got to go into it too, realizing that you're going to have to fall in love with the same person multiple times, right? So you are not who I met at 11. You are not who I had at 15, 18, 21, 25. And now in our 30s, you are not that person. Yeah. And so I have to find myself falling in love with your desires again, with your interests, with, and honestly, it can help a relationship because it keeps it exciting. Because I'm like, what are you into right now? Like, explain that to me. Like, let's talk about it. Like, what's making you laugh lately? What's making you smile? And then because I know that I have noticed the difference. I have noticed the change. I think sometimes when you do not notice the growth, that's probably a self thing. So you got to kind of figure out, hey, why am I not looking at my spouse or significant other in a new lens often? And then it's also one of those things where it's like, let me just humble myself to be like, hey, like, let's have a conversation. You seem different. Right. And it doesn't always mean that it's a bad thing. And sometimes it may require you to change. Right. It may require you to move differently. And you just got to be open to that. I think we are in a culture where everybody is like, it's black and white for me. I'm stuck in this. I'm stuck in that. And it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah, and that's how it is, right? Like, you're right about the culture, right? It's fast-paced. Yeah. So, like, if I don't like my job, I go get another one. Yeah. Whereas, 30, 40 years ago, it was, I'm retiring from my job since I was 8. I was here since I was 18, right? Like now it's like, I'm going to move. And that's how they're treating relationships now.
Yes.
Where at the first argument, I'm out. At the first, whatever it is. Yeah. I'm not going to say any names, but somebody here in the office told me the other day that they can't do it anymore with the guy that they were seeing. Yeah. And I was like, well, what's wrong? I don't like the way he walks. And I was like, he's just too nice. Yeah. Like, all right, so then maybe careful what you pray for, right? Because somebody wants that nice guy that's too nice to you, right? Yeah. And somebody may find his walk annoying but lovely, right? Yeah. Like it's just how it goes, right? You just don't know. So people have to really, kind of lock in and really view it from focus on themselves to know what they want, like you said. Absolutely. So that's awesome. Anything else you want to leave? I guess here's a question before we even get to the end of this, right? Because I think this is important for me to hear. Ideal future that you see for Justin, in the next 5 to 10 years. What do you see for, how I've grown and where I'm going?
I love this season for you. And I'm proud of you. And it has been such an honor to serve you in this season, to love you in this season, to pray for you, to cheer you on, and to support you. Watching you behind closed doors has also been just growth on individually, together as a couple, but just watching God use you and you allowing God to use you in this season has just been a blessing to see. It's funny that you even asked that question because we haven't been doing the next 5 years things. We learned that, we have no control over that.
I don't. And let me say this too, because I stopped planning long term because I felt like I was limiting what God had for me. 5 years ago, I would have never guessed that I would have been doing this right here. Yeah. And so to me, that says you can have your immediate goals of what you want to achieve this quarter, right? Because you have some control over how things go. I go, but 5 years from now, God may bless you with something well above your imagination. And so I don't want to put any limits on it. Yeah. But the question still stands on if you could have it your way, what does that look like for you?
If I could have it our way. Oh, that's a good question. And that's hard. I'm so blessed. Yeah. Right. That I truly can't even. I know life can get better because we got God, right? Mm-hmm. But I can't even imagine what He has in store for us. Mm-hmm. Like that's how hopeful I am for our future. I hope that in 5 years that we come across more people that we can help in any way, that we can bless, that we can love on. I hope that in 5 years we would have shaped our children into becoming people who not only love God, but love other people. I think me and you are like people. Mm-hmm. So I hope I see more friendships in our future. I truly, for you, I just want you to continue to allow God to lead this thing. I just want you to continue to serve Him and me and the children in the way that you have been. And so I am excited to watch God continue to pull you out of your comfort zone. And to pull me out of my comfort zone. Yeah. I'm excited for the people that the paths that we're going to cross. And most importantly, I just hope that in some way that we are attending more weddings for our friends, that we're praying for Christian weddings, and that, that we are laying hands on more people in the future.
No, that's awesome. All right, with that, I'm gonna let the people go. Guys, this has been another episode of Wealthy Creator Podcast. I am your host, Justin Berry. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you all enjoy it. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that like button so this video gets shared. And comment below if y'all want to see Ashley on another episode. And thanks again. I'll check you next time. Peace.